Hoop Central tweets out this from Tyrone Johnson. The Caitlin Clark thing is over because she's not the best player in the WNBA. She's not the best guard in the WNBA. She's not even the best guard from her college class. She's Jeremy Lin. This is just Linsanity. I'm saying that out loud, realizing that now I should just mute my mentions for the rest of the year because Caitlin Clark gets people fired up. But Caroline, I mean, I know Caitlin starts in a bit of a slump to start the season. Is it going too far to say she's just a passing fad? Is she just Linsanity?
Of course, it's too far to say that Caitlin Clark is just a passing fad. Now, look, no disrespect to Jeremy Lin, but he was a trend and it was fun and it was a fleeting moment in time. But didn't we all kind of know in the midst of Linsanity that it was a passing, fleeting moment in time? And that maybe Jeremy Lin wouldn't totally and completely change the trajectory of the course of the NBA, right? Because Caitlin Clark has. Caitlin Clark single-handedly has changed. I'm not going to say single-handedly. That's not fair. And that is discounting what all of the people who have come before her have done. But Caitlin Clark is a big reason why the trajectory of the WNBA has totally and completely changed. That she has commanded eyeballs in college, and now a trickle-up effect into the W has commanded eyeballs, attention, conversation, money, investment. And that's not just her, but she's a big part of it. She wouldn't be where she was if there weren't paths paved by the wonderful players that have come before her and the wonderful players that came in with her and the players that have come after her. Sure, Paige Beckers is part of this conversation. Of course, Angel Reese is part of this conversation. Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi. So many. Maya Moore, Candace Parker, all of these greats in the WNBA. But everybody knows Caitlin Clark. She is a cultural phenomenon, larger than women's basketball, larger than basketball itself, larger than the University of Iowa. Caitlin, you say Caitlin, you know exactly who I'm talking about. She is a brand in and of herself. And it's not just the brand, it's not just the idea of Caitlin Clark. It's also her play. Look, she's a two-time WNBA All-Star. She was the WNBA Rookie of the Year. She's averaging 20 points a game. She was the FIBA MVP. She's one of the betting favorites to be MVP this year. Now, I do think now with all of the accolades and all of the, as the kids say, glazing I'm doing for Caitlin Clark that she deserves, it's fair to say she's not the best player on her team. Like Kelsey Mitchell is the best player on the Indiana Fever. Kelsey Mitchell is the reason why the Indiana Fever were one win away from the WNBA Finals last year. I think it's fair to say, like, is Caitlin Clark the best player in her draft class? I think we can have those fair conversations. But I think it's also fair to rationalize why Caitlin is where she is right now. We're only a couple of games into the season. Caitlin Clark is coming off of an injury. Caitlin is playing the first valuable WNBA minutes that she played since July of last year. So it's fair to expect a ramping up period. I think it's also fair to say Kelsey Mitchell is the most important player on that team. But I think it's also fair to say that Caitlin Clark might be the most important figure in the WNBA. Both things can be true.
For me, Linsanity came from out of nowhere and it lasted for a brief moment. That's not Caitlin. She didn't come from out of nowhere, and this isn't a brief moment. I think the comp to Steph Curry just gets more and more accurate to me. I mean, Steph Curry, if you go back to Steph's entire NBA career, he had back-to-back MVPs, and I believe it was 2014 and 2015. I think those 2 years were his back-to-back MVPs. In those 2 years, he was the best player in the NBA. For the majority of his career, has he been the best player in the NBA every single year? No. Has he been a top 3 or 4 player? Sometimes, not always. But he is one of the best players, and he plays an electric style that we love to watch, and we love to watch him shoot. And everybody loves to talk about him. And I'm not saying that means Steph is an overrated talking point at all. I'm just saying that I think we need to start holding Caitlin to the same type of standard we hold Steph to. That's the easiest comp for most of us. And Frank, the first time I ever interviewed Caitlin in her freshman year, I asked her who she models her game after, and she said, Steph. I said, when did you figure out you could shoot from anywhere on the court? And she said, when I watched Steph do it, right? So Steph has this massive impact in how she plays the game. I also think it's a pretty fair comp moving forward and what to expect. Some years, she's got a real shot at being the best player in the league. And some years, she's going to have a real shot at being the face of everything that's happening for her team on championship windows. Some years she's going to have to be part of something bigger. Like, isn't it okay right now to admit that the best of Steph came when he had KD with him? And that doesn't mean that Steph was less than or greater than. It just means that, like, it's a team sport. It's like, so I think the concept, where the concept is going wrong with Caitlin right now, is she doesn't have to be the best player in the world. She doesn't have to be the best player in the W. She doesn't have to be the best player on her team. She doesn't have to be the best guard. She doesn't have to be any of those things. She just has to be really damn good. And she's really damn good all the time. So is she right now clearly the best player in the WNBA? No, I've made it wildly clear on this show that to me is A'ja Wilson, and it ain't even close, right? But I also don't think that that's the metric she has to be judged by. Her popularity requires that she be a star in the W night in, night out. Caroline, she's a star in the W night in, night out. I think she's living up to exactly what she has to do. And I think that the problem isn't her performance. The problem is some asinine expectation from a lot of people that just frankly never watch women's basketball, that think because she's Caitlin, she should come in and be the most dominant thing you've ever seen. And it's like, all right, stop for a second. If you've never taken the time to watch the W, then don't tell me where Caitlin belongs in the lexicon of the W right now.
It is so frustrating to me that I feel like so often in women's basketball, but really just in life in general, we live in a society, you have to have this big sweeping feeling, emotion, or take on everything. It's like either Caitlin Clark has to be the greatest player in the history of the WNBA or she sucks. You either have to kiss the ground that Caitlin Clark walks on or you hate her. Like, can't we just have a little bit of nuance in this conversation? Can't you acknowledge what Caitlin Clark has done for herself, for her team, for her sport, while also acknowledging that she just started year 3 and there is probably a lot left for her to achieve? Can't you acknowledge that she is such an exciting and fun player to watch, that she has done so much for the brand of the W, but she's maybe not the best player in the W right now, but maybe she could be at some point if she can find some consistency and stay healthy? Like, can't we all just approach this like adults without saying, oh, well, in year 3, Caitlin Clark hasn't won 2 championships, so we're just going to compare her to one of the most fleeting fads and trends that we've seen in basketball and Jeremy Lin. Again, no disrespect to Jeremy Lin, but like, I don't get why we can't have just like a fair and nuanced conversation about Caitlin Clark the same way that I feel like we have fair and nuanced conversations about men's players or about football players. Like, we don't all need to have this strong and emotional take one way or another that she's either the best player you've ever seen in your life or she's trash.
A lot of people, and I'm not saying this, I'm not going to pretend to have any knowledge on Tyrone Johnson personally. So I don't know what his level of W coverage has been. But I think a lot of people have watched the highlights, heard the chaos around it, seen the ad campaigns, heard everybody talking about Caitlin, and then also combine that with the fact that they just presume that everybody else in the WNBA is less than. And so if you walk in with this confirmation bias that the league sucks, none of these women are talented, and Caitlin is a unicorn, then you have a certain expectation. If you walk in with the concept of, wow, there's a lot of really good stars in this league, and Caitlin is going to be one of them. And yeah, like as I've said a million times, I think there's a need for more depth in this league. I think there's a need for more stars. I think that the league is beautiful at times when you watch some people shoot. And also I think the league's tough at times when you watch them finish at the rim. I think all of these things can be true at once. And the problem is you have a lot of people that come in that haven't watched a second of it, that just presume that everything at the W is just hot garbage. And that means that Caitlin should walk in as the savior of a league. It's not that simple. I think there's a lot of talent. I think she's one of those talented players. I think she's a hell of a lot closer to Steph Curry than she is to anything with Linsanity. And I think the biggest insanity is the take that puts her name into that level of chaos for no good reason. Plenty more to break down on Caitlin because she's Caitlin, and we will always fearlessly cover the W on this show. We happen to love it, and you can check out Hoops 360, by the way. Caroline Fenton does great work on that with our team. Check it out. It's great coverage on the W.